Labor-ASAAL, good to see you. We will be introducing our panel quickly. So the next one is Regional Rajakaruna.
Reginald Rajakuna, Secretary of Staten Island Chapter of ASAAL.
Karim Chaudhary.
Mohammad Karim Chaudhary, National Secretary ASAAL.
Nurlaks.
Nurul Haq, Executive Vice President, ASAAL Queens Chapter. Thank you.
Sharmin Tahir. Sharmin, unmute.
Sharmin Tahir, member of ASAAL Queens Chapter.
Shahana Begum.
My name is Shahana Begum. I am National Women Chair of ASAAL.
Alauddin. Unmute.
Hi, this is MD Alauddin. I'm the corresponding secretary of the Bronx chapter. Thank you.
Farooq Hussain.
Hi, this is Farooq Hussain. I'm president from New Jersey chapter.
Saeed Tahmidul Haq.
Good evening. This is Saeed Tahmidul Haq, Bronx chapter president, ASAAL. Thank you.
Harjeet Minhaj. Harjeet. Yes.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Harjeet Minhas. I'm the Queens Chapter Secretary.
Bronx Chapter Executive Vice President. Are you there? Yes.
This is Mohammed Nasir Mina. I'm Bronx Chapter Executive Vice President.
Sultana.
Hi, my name is Sultana Khanum, Political Action Director, Queens Chapter. Thank you.
Afroza. Unmute.
Unmute.
Hi, my name is Afroza Begum. I'm the Vice President behalf of ASAAL in Queens Chapter.
And Islam. Unmute. Munir bhai, unmute.
I don't think.
I have a MD Munir Islam, President Queens Chapter.
Adan Islam. Unmute.
Hi. Good afternoon. This is Adan Islam, Women's Chair, Queens Chapter.
Sharafat Hussain.
Hi, this is Sharafat, US Capital Chapter President. Thank you.
Akbar Hussain.
Hi, this is Akbar Hussain, Executive Director, New Jersey Chapter.
MD Hussain, you are there? MD Hussain, virtually President of Georgia Chapter. And Dr. Mujibur Rahman, Justice Chapter, the President of Brooklyn Chapter. So, Dipti, we really appreciate you coming and joining us. So your first 3 minutes, you will be defining yourself, why you are running, who is running, how you want to win. Your 3 minutes starts now.
Okay. First of all, thank you so much for taking the time. I know that you have carved out time on a Saturday just to meet with all the candidates in CD24. So thank you, because I know that there's a lot of things you'd rather be doing on a Saturday afternoon. My name is Deepthi Sharma, and I grew up on 155th Street, right near Queens College. I went to PS 201 up the block where my son is now attending remotely. His first day of school picture was in front of an iPad, whereas mine was in front of the school. So as we know, we're in a very interesting time right now. My driving mission from an early age has always been to serve my community. I went to Robert F. Kennedy Middle School on Parsons Boulevard, where community service was a part of our curriculum. Every week we were going to work with little kids that were in preschool and kindergarten classes with very different disabilities. And it was a really big impact on me and my background and what I wanted to do next in my life. I worked on a few campaigns when I went to college at Stony Brook, because I wanted to work with candidates that I thought would have the greatest impact on our community. I started a business to help immigrants, women, and minority-owned restaurants to use technology to grow their businesses, because I knew how many of them felt overlooked and underserved. As you all know, most tech companies, they don't build to look out for the taxi drivers or the restaurant owners. They always build for the person who's ordering the cab or the person who's ordering the food. And what I did when I first started my company was I started to talk to the restaurant owners first. So I wanted to make sure the people that never get asked those questions as like, what is it that you need? I wanted to do that. So my company Food to Eat did that as soon as I started my company 10 years ago. When COVID hit, I pivoted my business during the pandemic. I raised $130,000 in 8 weeks to feed domestic violence survivors, the elderly, frontline workers, and communities that were going food insecure. Because I knew that, you know, people were in need of help, right? Our restaurants needed help. Our community members needed help. We used the money to buy food from the small businesses that were still open, took the food and then delivered it to people that we saw that were losing their jobs, weren't able to pay rent, and weren't able to feed their families. And now I'm running for city council in District 24 because I'm willing, well, because I know that we need people with vision and grit to be able to, you know, build a district, build a borough, build a city that is going to get to the other side of this pandemic. We need pragmatic leaders willing to roll up their sleeves. And my campaign is, you know, focused on that. We recently launched a resource center, a platform for our voters to reach out, because right now this seat is vacant. And the number one thing we need to make sure is that we're here to serve the members of the community. So we, every single time we call our constituents, the first thing we do is we ask them how they're doing and how we can help them. Because at the end of the day, that is the most important thing, is making sure that we spend time understanding what it is each of our community members needs.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. Korimbai, are you there? Can you ask number 2, please?
Number 2?
Including why not?
1 second. Let me see. আপনি স্টার্ট করেন আমি দেখতে হবে প্রশ্ন
Okay, good. No, yeah, very, very simple. No, the idea is that we have distributed the questions so that it is easy, but now it looks like it's becoming difficult. So no, very simple questions, which is very important in this election, beginning this election. Describe ranked choice voting in elections. Is it good for our community? Do you support it? Why not?
Absolutely. Ranked choice voting is very, very important. I voted for ranked choice voting a few years ago, as I'm sure a lot of people in this room did as well.
Not 4 years, last year.
Yeah.
Last year, November.
Year.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2020 seems like it's been 3 years.
I know.
I keep forgetting how recent that was, actually, in all honesty.
But the discussion was going last many years. That's true.
Yes, and it's been coming up because, you know, I've been spending time researching as a candidate even what other cities have done. So in short, I believe in ranked choice voting. I voted for it myself. I think it is really important that we educate people all throughout the district about ranked choice voting. It's a part of our call script. So as volunteers are volunteering for our campaign, it tells, that's one of the first few questions. The first question, how are you doing? How can we help? The second question is, do you know about ranked choice voting? And if they don't, we have a description of what it means. It is really essential as candidates, we work together because, as you all know, this district has never had a South Asian candidate ever. It has never had a mother. It has never had a woman, and it has never had a South Asian. And it is really, really important, as we are a huge part of this district, that we have someone from our community that is going to not just listen to our community, but it is someone who's going to actually act upon the things that our community is saying. So it's not just, I'm listening to you, what are you going to do about it? So I think with ranked choice voting, it is a huge help, especially because, as a lot of you may already know, this particular seat has not an incumbent, but someone who's already been in this seat and has name recognition. So for any of the South Asian candidates to be successful, ranked choice voting will definitely be very, very important.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Korimbai.
Yeah.
Number 4.
Number 4. Okay. If you are elected, what will be your top 3 legislative priorities?
Okay.
If you are elected, we hope you will be elected.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that confidence. Right now, I think the most important thing we need to think about is COVID recovery and how we can actually make sure that we're prioritizing the things that we need to make this district more equitable. So, you know, as a parent, I think about education. I hear a lot about how we don't have access to technology for our students, as a lot of students are still remote learning. I think it is really important that we think about equitable education. I think it's really, really important that we think about jobs right now. Lots of people have, lost their jobs, and we know a lot of the South Asian community does work in the industries that were hit the hardest, like the hospitality industry. So what can we do to make sure that we increase the number of jobs, and especially good paying union jobs is really, really important. So looking at things, legislation like the Small Jobs Recovery Act is really important. Thinking about legislation like the Green New Deal and how we can work with buildings and retrofitting buildings, both old and new, because those opportunities will now create jobs for our community members. And with the Small Business Jobs Recovery Act, what's most important with that for me is we're helping restaurants, we're helping small businesses to be able to, remain open. But we're also helping them give opportunities to members of the community to have jobs more locally. I don't want that every single member of ours is only having to go to Manhattan or to the Bronx or to Brooklyn to have a good job. I think that the more we invest in our local economy, the more we can create good paying jobs in the community. The other thing is transportation. I live in a part of the district where we don't have a train. I grew up near Queens College, and buses aren't very accessible. So the other thing that we need to think about is how do we make it more accessible for people to actually get to work and move around in this district. So education, job recovery, as well as transportation. And then beyond that, obviously jobs are very important. How do we provide rent relief for our
No,
for
first
our
three
people?
you did, Dipti, you did great. I think we asked for
Okay, I
prioritizing
wanted to
three,
bring up
but
rent
I have a
relief
little bit of question on you said job creation. I have some vested interest in it. How you plan to create job for our community? A lot of people lost their job, and now they may have to feed themselves with the new technology, new opportunities available. What you will do if you are elected to train, to provide the support
Yeah,
for our people?
so that's very important. So I grew up going to Pamanok Community Center. We don't have enough community centers that have good vocational job training centers. So I think that is number one, is that if there are going to be new jobs like, that are part of the Green New Deal to create, more retrofitting these old and new buildings, how do we train our individuals to be able to have access to those jobs? So that, I think, investing in our community centers, but working with nonprofits that are already doing great work. So for example, there's two organizations that I can highlight. One is Pursuit, which is an organization that focuses on helping people to have training in the technology sector so that they can help them get jobs in tech companies. And the second is to think about Hot Bread Kitchen, which is an organization that's focused on helping immigrant women, refugee women, to be able to learn skills that are in the kitchen so that they can work in professional kitchens, right? So working with local organizations, creating more community centers in which there's proper training so that if somebody does want to be able to get a job of new technology that is being built, that we're focusing on training people so that they actually have the skills that they need in order to have these other jobs.
Thank you. Harjit, are you there? Number 7. Harjit.
I'm sorry, yes, I'm here. Hey, what will you do to establish a more culturally sensitive in-language, religious observant senior center programs across the city?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, being someone who's South Asian, it is really, really important to me to think about things like language justice and how we help people in the community have access to services, access to community centers, and in that is prioritizing translation services, right? Even screenings like this, how can we make sure that we work with companies in which we have a translator available at all community centers, right? We look at what's happening within our community, look at the languages that are widely spoken, and make sure that we prioritize those the most. We look at what are the services that are most needed. For example, if there is a need for a tenants association, because tenants are constantly being harassed, we make sure that there are tenant associations, that they have access to a translator, they have access to a lawyer and legal counsel that actually speaks their languages, so they're not constantly being left behind.
Is there anything in particular that you would, I guess, focus on your first term if you're elected? Anything like particular program-wise?
A program. So the programs that I'm thinking about, when I think about investing in our communities, the most important is, if people, again, when I do get elected, times will be very different. So we'll have to see where we're at that point. But what I think the most important is investing in educational programs and job training programs. I think those two are the most important. And then making sure that seniors aren't being left behind. I think the other thing that I keep hearing about as I'm talking to constituents is that, seniors don't have services available to them. So making sure that we're funding community centers in the ways that are being directly impacted very hyper locally, right? So what this side of the district, and when I say this side of the district, where I live versus Hillside versus 188th Street, every part of the community are really different. So having to understand what community centers need in each part of the district, whether it's job training, whether it's services for our communities, whether it's services for working parents, because again, childcare is a really, really important thing for people to actually continue having a job to go to. So making sure that each one of those needs is met depending on what the community's needs are, again, very hyper locally.
Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Mujibur Rahman, number 22.
Hi, Dist Sharma, welcome and thank you for being here today. And I really congratulate you for showing the courage to join this election. My question is that in brief statement, please describe how you will use your office to fight for issues important to ASAAL families and their communities.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, again, I think it goes back to the things that I've been talking about is starting with education, right? I spent 2 hours in high school just trying to get to Brooklyn Tech, which is where I went to high school, because we didn't have, it was hard to get into schools that were really good because it was very competitive. So, I think because I know a lot of working families, education is really important, bringing better schools here, investing in education that is in this district. Transportation, it took me 2 hours just to get to high school. To think about that, I live in a city where transportation is available, but it took me so long just to get to a good school. That's also just, kind of crazy in my mind. And then again, going back to job creation, making sure that we're also creating jobs locally in our district so that families aren't only having to go to Manhattan, to the Bronx, to Brooklyn, outside of this district. How can we help small business jobs be created here? How can we create a better local economy?
Thank you. Sharapa, number 6.
Congratulations for running. My question is, what is your position regarding for-profit charter schools, and what is your position regarding co-locating charter schools within public schools?
Okay. So charter schools, it's something that's still new for me. But I will say I do not like charter schools generally because of the fact that they're not focusing on what's most important, which is the education of the child. They were originally started to make sure that they were a place of innovation. I think that they've slowly steered away from that. So I do have an issue with the way charter schools are run today. And the second part of your question, can you repeat it again? Sorry.
Yes. What is your position regarding co-locating charter schools within public schools?
Yeah, I also don't think that that's fair, just because, again, it's using the... Yeah, so I just don't think that it's fair because it's using the resources of public education while they are able to raise money outside. So charter schools are still new for me. It is still something I'm educating myself on. But from what I've seen, I don't like the way they're run. I don't like that they take money from large investors. So I think that we need to keep them separated, and schools need to be treated separately, public versus charter.
Thank you. I agree with you.
Very good, very good. That's good. So now we have Ali Bhai is not there. I think Kazi Farid is not there.
Farooq Hussain.
Farooq Hussain, the question is not there. That is the problem. Farooq, you can ask number 5 then.
Yes. Welcome here at Ms. Dipti Sharma. My question is, what will you do to help establish a halal food program in all local public schools?
I mean, the first thing is I have to accept that it's very important, right? So I worked in the food business. I really recognize how important it is that we recognize the dietary restrictions and needs and priorities of our children. I think it is important that our children are seen. So the most important thing is working with the school, working with the food system. As it is, I think the food is really bad. I was a vegetarian growing up, and I didn't think that they actually did a great job at, kind of giving good options for kids like me. And so the more I think about it, I think we need to make sure and prioritize halal food in schools, just like we need to make sure we're prioritizing, the dietary restrictions of all kids. So halal foods in the DOE is really, really essential. And it's something that I will 100% advocate for. And the way I can do that is making sure that it's on our agenda from day one, because again, this isn't something that we can leave behind. It's not something we can't, we just say, oh yeah, no, we'll do it next year. No, it has to be done. We know we've been asking for this for a long time, and our communities have been a part of this district for decades. And the fact that it's still something that you're asking for and having to advocate for is crazy in my mind.
Yes, your last 2 minutes where you will be telling us why we ought to endorse you and how you want to win, who else has endorsed you, and what is your strength?
Yeah, absolutely. I live by a very, very simple principle. You can't be what you can't see. As a young woman of color, a working mom, and a child of immigrants, I don't see elected leaders in my district who identify with my labels and therefore understand my experience. And this lack of understanding is why I face many obstacles, as my parents did 30 years ago, just trying to enroll my kids in free summer programs because childcare is too expensive. Hoping our zone schools are high quality because moving or hitting the lottery is just not a realistic option. I've had to forego taking a paycheck because there wasn't enough money in the bank because I had to pay my team when I first started my company. And not much has changed in this district, right, over the past 2 decades. Working families are still facing the same challenges, and we're seeing it even more now because of the global pandemic. I'm fighting for the needs of working parents because I am one. I'm running to end gender and racial discrimination because I have faced it for most of my life. I'm running to improve economic opportunities for immigrants because I'm the daughter of immigrants who built a business for immigrants because I knew how much immigrants are overlooked and set aside. I think it's really important that we represent working families because we're seeing that New York City doesn't work for working families. We're seeing the challenges every single day, and I think it's time that we put a mom and a small business owner like myself who's going to fight like hell for our community, because we just have never had that before. I'm spending every single moment of my time. I'm spending 1 to 3 hours every single day on the phones talking to voters. I am the newest candidate, so endorsements are a new thing for me, and I'm slowly building relationships with every single community member. But again, like I said, I am a mother who grew up here. I'm raising my children here. And the fact that I'm facing the same issues my parents did 20, 30 years ago is kind of crazy. And I think that it's time that we make sure that the person who's in the seat understands the pain points of our communities, understands how essential it is that we have somebody from our community at the forefront, understands how we need to think about good jobs, how we need to think about education and transportation, and how all of this has left our communities behind. So I will say, I think that that's a lot of what sets me apart. My strong willingness to not take no for an answer and to keep coming back is also really, really important. I built 2 businesses in the past 10 years, all on my own. I know what it's like to work in the private sector and the public sector. And I think it's really time that we bring someone who can bring those 2 together so that we can create innovative solutions to the problems that we're facing.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you very much. We wish you the best of luck, and we'll be informing you in a few days.
Okay.
Should our committee decides to endorse you, but you have been fantastic. And I thought that you did the right thing, because this is the ranks voting. I think once you come there, you will be there, and at least you now have started a good beginning. Let us see, wish you the best of luck and stay in touch. I think you should have known about ASAAL a long time ago, but at least now
I appreciate it. And like I said, I know I'm a new candidate, but I sit on the board of Stony Brook University where I went to college. I sit on the board of Brooklyn Tech. I spent a lot of time focusing my work in education, and I sat on the board for Business Center for New Americans, where I focused on helping small businesses that were immigrants or refugees get access to microloans. So a lot of my work has been in education and small businesses, but I understand the importance of making sure that we represent our communities on all levels. And, I hope that you can see through the work that I've done, and that I'm very quick to make, when I see something that needs to get done, I go for it. And I make sure that I use that voice. So thank you again. I know you have more of these.
I have read something you have sent to me. We have not shared that because I want everybody to know you today, and they knew very well. So we have our next candidate. We want to leave us. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good Saturday night, everyone.
Yes.